Whoa, hit the button. Yeah, draft physics video, science. Yeah, it is physics, everything. Anyway, I don't have a great update. Yeah, just, well, whatever. I have done a little bit of writing, and that's sort of what I'm stuck on. That's why I'm making a video, is I'm kind of stuck. So I have to make a commitment, sort of, to finish writing, to continue writing. And I can always fix it later, I suppose. I just don't want to, you don't like to do it wrong and then have to fix it. So, I've gone through the kinetic thing here a little bit better. So on the website, there's this little beginning part that's really quite good. And then you hit the more button and it goes down here and there's this little extra bit. And, I'll throw in the images of the kinetic paradox thing with the little X and the idea that you go either way. Perceptually, but the actual fact is, everything gets changed all the time. The photons going, back and forth between me and the camera are, one direction, are constantly getting changed, exchanged for new ones. But they're doing exactly the same thing. But anyway, so that this whole progression of force thing, and this progression is the idea of this. Then I'm back to this time question, and committing to the idea that time is a byproduct of interaction, and that's what essentially slows things down. Creates the density of delay that creates all the imbalances, that creates more imbalance, that creates more imbalance. It's this, the idea that once you, in the model, if you were to, I said I'd like to be able to make a model of just all these pixels. I used to do that in the old style computer program because you actually had to control the pixels, and so it was kind of an interesting way to program because you were always kind of having to do a lot of pixel math. Just to make letters and stuff. It was silly. You wanted to make some different character. You always had to do a bunch of math to figure out the, vector, structure. You were always making fonts in a sense. And it was just interesting, just because you had to learn all this math. Anyway, which, I don't retain anything, unlike some other people, which is annoying. But anyway, so I'm just thinking about the idea of this, because, it'd be great to have a model where you could just punch in the number and just say, okay, all the pixels move in straight lines, and then they just bounce off the edges just for the sake of keeping the model alive. And, you just make a simple rule that every time they have an interaction, the interaction consumes time. But otherwise they move very fast in between interactions, some kind of very fast number. And just see how long it takes for you to start creating sticky things, gluey things. Before the gravity starts to happen, the blocking force of delay. And that's sort of what I'm arguing here, is that gravity is just the byproduct of delay. Okay, when something that was going to hit me doesn't hit me, then the stuff behind me has power. The stuff pushing me all the time is going to now have power if the stuff coming this way is, stuck at the store, in the 20-person deep line. And they, they're just slowed down. They can't get here. They'll get here eventually, but too late. All right, I already got pushed. Kind of thing. But that's where you get caught in this get here eventually thing, because then you'd end up getting pushed back the other way. So I have to account for that. But obviously the net result is that if the delay is substantial enough, you're just stuck there, and there'll be a foreskin, a blob of extra bits that will stay, until they're cut off. And so, in a sense that it's not true, because once the delay happens, the delay is stuck in there until something breaks the dam, once the dam is created. something has to break it. So another force has to be injected to release the delay. You're probably not understanding any of that, so there's probably no point in getting into all this detail. But it just has to do with the structure of writing this. So getting, it's just the order of the explaining it. Because, I want to just say, okay, gravity's just a shadowing force. I just want to get back to the shadow argument because it's so obvious. But in a sense, it's more of an argument about velocity and acceleration than it is an argument about gravity. Gravity isn't really what's happening. It's this velocity acceleration thing, the acquisition of the holding, the taking, the collecting. The idea that you're collecting something that would go somewhere else if you didn't collect it. That kind of thing is the mechanism. And it's not so much about this. It's not the idea of a shadow, it's the idea of a collection. And so it's the acceleration that's creating gravity. Because to accelerate, you have to collect. And you're collecting what would be a force affecting something. I don't even know if that really explains it. But anyway, it just has to do with the idea of how you progress through the conversation. So, I did the kinetic thing. I think I've explained it sort of, kind of, and a couple of images will help that. And I'm on this universal glue. And the glue is gravity, but I don't really want to say that word. But I have. So, I mean, in this sentence, the mechanism isn't some extra or special force. The mechanism is merely the byproduct of basic function of kinetically interacting quanta. The argument is that force is isn't a thing. It's all one thing. It's all light. It's all matter. Everything is just made of this stuff, and this is stuff mechanics. Quantum mechanics. It's just stuff mechanics. In order to know force, there's just the idea that stuff will go in different directions. Different things will happen to it if you can slow it down and confuse it, in little circles and stuff, make it go circular for a while. You can create all kinds of, what can be created is all kinds of flow dynamics. You want to call it the eddies. I've used that analogy so many times as metaphors for different things. The eddy in the stream, but man, it's just, again, it's showing up. So anyway, the real point of the video isn't just to do this crap. Well, I'm just pointing out I am working on it, but it's just, it's slow going. And, I've been attempting to solicit helpers, collaborators, whatever you want to call them. And I was kind of disappointed because, a guy I was really, I said, oh, okay, this guy is, yeah, he's good. He just kind of, well, I mean, I'll read what he wrote. Gary, I never got your Skype request since I've changed computers and isn't hooked up. That said, I'm not really looking for collaborators. I like to work alone. Don't take it personally, since it has nothing to do with you or your theories. I wish you the best with them, Miles. I mean, it's just such a, well, frankly, you could do something better than that. I mean, that's just saying so nothing. I mean, I'd rather be just called, I don't understand what you're talking about at all. I think you're a nut. That would be nicer. I mean, I would like that better. Or just say something like, hey, I am so super cool that nobody can ever say anything that challenges me or inspires me or does any of that shit. Because, I mean, at minimum, I could be a muse to him. I could be some kind of thing he could bounce something off of and somebody would say, hey, I think that's a piece of shit. I mean, I just don't, this work alone thing is, I'm all for this work alone thing, but it's a practical matter. It would be great. I would love to be able to have somebody who, could understand what I'm talking about and provide some kind of useful feedback, rather than just keep pointing me to postcards of crap I already know, pictures of things I've already seen. So anyway, so I'll talk about this Miles guy for a little while, because I was impressed. So he's got He's really quite a good artist. So I'll leave a link below to his art site. He doesn't finish anything though, is what I've noticed. I mean, they all look great superficially, but he just doesn't quite finish them. It's really good, but he doesn't. I have the same. I don't finish anything either. Really finish it. And then he writes a ton of these scientific papers. So he's just got like, he has converted a few of them into books, but they're kind of pricey, so I ain't buying. Figuring that most of what's in the books is already in the papers he's written. So he's got 1 million papers, though. I mean, yeah, it's close to 1 million, I think. Well, I'll open the papers link. But I mean, this goes on for years here. Oh, years and years and years and years. It's like almost every week he publishes some paper cranking, on some aspect of physics, standard physics that's bullshit, which is good. He seems to know some of this shit. I mean, he's able to, what was the word? Scrutinize Einstein field equations. I mean, you really have to know. You have to at least have the vocabulary of science to even do that. Let alone know what these things actually mean. You have to even know what all the little parts are. I mean, they have 4 million different kinds of, it's not literally 4 million, but, 7, bizarre, mathematical tricks that they give names to. A slider, a tensor, a zigzagger, and most of them are just absolute bullshit in the sense that they're just like, well, in case this equation all goes funky, let's multiply it times something incredibly silly. So we'll have times incredibly silly. And if the equation in the end doesn't have another incredibly silly on the bottom of the equation, the denominator, and they don't get to cross out, then the equation will blow up and we won't have to deal with it because it's going to be full of shit anyway. So it's like they engineer irrational math as a catch, just in case their equation is going to say something they don't want to hear. And so it really is, I'm sorry, but maybe it's rational physics. I just can't see the rationality in it. It seems like snake oil to me on the surface. Maybe it's great medicine, but it seems like a lot of snake oil. So anyway, in like 2008 he wrote this on the 2-slit experiment. So I'll link to this one also, particularly. And I just found it very interesting because he's basically saying something very similar to what I'm saying, which is, but see, he should just drew a picture of it, but he didn't. He writes very well. I mean, it's very readable, but again, it's kind of unfinished. But he writes prolifically and conversationally, but yeah, some of it just doesn't have the detail that would be helpful, or instruction manual, or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, for this case, a picture would have said 1,000 words. So he's basically arguing is the same thing I've been arguing, is that there's an electromagnetic field around all of this matter. Matter is not this stuff. See, in the math, they just take all this matter, this, and this, and they just ignore it entirely. It means nothing. It does nothing. And all they pay attention to is the light going in and the matter coming out. But I mean, they don't pay any attention to what condition these variables are in at all. And he's arguing, as I'm arguing, that this is creating a field, and 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 it's that field that's creating. It's not a wave. I mean, a field isn't a wave. It has obviously a field, when you see field lines, it has the shape of a wave, but it's a standing wave being created by energy being released in directions. But anyway, the point is that it's this mechanism, the physical mechanism here, that's creating the effect on the dumb light. The light is dumb. It doesn't have any variable. This is where the variable is. And this is what's saying, if you go here, you're going to get deflected 30%. If you go here, you'll be deflected 30%. If you go here, you'll be deflected 10%. You know, that kind of thing. That rule is being created by the field, being created by the matter. Well, anyway, so he doesn't provide a mechanism for that creation, but as I'm attempting to create. But I'm just saying it's pretty much the same argument, that the two-slit experiment is about the slit material and the fact that matter isn't. It isn't matter, okay? I mean, it's like this, you know. Look, you know, you can do the between your finger experiment. You can see the fudginess. The surface of everything is not a surface. It's covered with electrons. It's nuclear. Okay, the surface of everything is nuclear, subnuclear. And it's that subnuclear surface that when you bring those surfaces closer and closer together, those surfaces are now throwing shit at each other, so to speak. They're influencing each other. They're creating stuff in between them. And the stuff in between them is what the photons are getting fucked by. So anyway, so he doesn't say that, I don't think, for... I mean, he has talked about gravitational lensing, but that his argument for that is more to do with, you know, some sort of change in Einstein's bent space stuff or something. I think he still accepts bent space. So I don't think he believes it's, as I do, that it's a surface phenomenon, because surfaces have a high density of subatomic particles, and those subatomic particles are what are diffracting the light. So there is no gravitational lensing. It's just that obviously there's a lot of particles where there's a lot of gravity. Obviously. Yeah, so I think that's enough of that. So I'll link to the double slit one just because that's an interesting article in the sense that it's pretty much my argument, you know, made a little differently, but I mean it's pretty much my argument about the fact that it's not the light that's creating the phenomenon, but the slit material that's creating the pattern. Okay. So, yes, his most recent article, PBS admits I was right 15 years later. Well, they didn't really do any of that. So, you know, well, look, guys, like, you know, he's one of these guys who's, you know, he was a kid genius and all that kind of stuff, which I wasn't. So, you know, in that sense, we have nothing in common. But ironically, we're you know, we have, it's amazing how much we look alike. Let's see if I can find his personal page, extended bio. Yeah, here we go. It's just kind of funny. I mean, this, you know, I have a picture of me in a blue one of these. The same damn picture. I mean, I didn't have that thing though. You know, but it's just creepy. I mean, this is my head. Okay, you know, that's my head. I mean, I think a crew cut, but you know, in white hair. But I'm just saying, it's, yeah, same thing. It's just kind of funny. Alright, so do I have anything I need to add? I mean, I have to add substance is what I have to add. I mean, I have to really do some more work. I just have to do more modeling. It's just this modeling thing. It's just so hard to, you know, it's simple in a sense, because you're just saying, okay, you know, I got a little sloppy picture here, blah, blah, blah. Oh, Hannibal's doing this little killing thing. It's so simple in one respect, in the sense that it's just this idea that you can fully understand that if I have more things inside of me going in a certain direction, that net, I'm going to end up going in that direction. And so the idea of it, and the idea that once I've got them, that, you know, I'm going to keep them. It's working. It'll get maintained. It'll just stay that way until something says, no, you're going the other way now. But the idea that if I've collected something, if now I have more of something in me, the something somehow isn't where it would be, okay, because I've got it. And wherever it's not, that thing is moving towards me. You know, if I'm moving that way, then anything over there is going to end up going this way because I've taken away the stuff that would have made it go, you know what I mean? That would have stopped it from coming towards me. So you can just kind of see that this is all just about imbalances in this chaos field. And once you create an imbalance, it becomes a sinkhole for more imbalance. It just starts collecting and collecting and collecting. And, you know, that's kind of like the gravity well. Stuff just keeps going into it. It just keeps getting, it becomes a bigger delay. And the line just keeps getting longer instead of shorter. So that was the other thing I wanted to explain too, again, just to emphasize. You know, that they've always made this critique about how gravity is this weak force and it couldn't possibly be a nuclear force. And the nuclear force couldn't possibly be, you know, the strong force, couldn't possibly be gravity because gravity is such a weak force. But it's not weak, you know, on the level of the quanton. So it's like when a photon goes all the way across space, you know, image that as a representation of a quanton. When it goes all the way across space, when it hits something, it hits it like it was right next door. The thing it actually does interact with, the electron, that thing is saying, shit, I just got fucked. So it's not like there's any distance makes any difference to the little bits. You know, it's just as powerful on the little bit scale as if it was 5 feet, 500 feet, all the same to it. So on their level, it's not a net impact. You know, so it's not this, you know, spread out thing. It's always very personal. So on the quantum level, force is very personal, and it's all or nothing. You either are, or it's do or do not do. You're hit or do not, or unhit, but you're not semi-hit or a little bit hit, or no. You're either whacked or you're not, and that's the difference, and it's a perceptual difference to not understand that on one level it can be that way, and then when you put a whole bunch of this stuff and spread it all out like, you know, frosting on a cake or something, it gets thinner and thinner and thinner. It has a different function altogether. Well, not altogether, but substantially looks very different than how it is in its reality, because the net is different than the individual. Yeah, well, so it's kind of understanding just the bad apple scenario, right? If I throw one bad apple in a pie only made of 2 apples, well, the bad apple is going to really fuck it up. But if I throw one bad apple in a pie of 10 billion apples, well, bad apple might not mean too much. Anyway, yeah, it's probably enough of a video. Like I said, I wanted to make more progress, but I'm just stuck thinking through my commitment to the creation of time with interaction. And I really want to commit to it. But I just want to be able to model it. I want to be able to draw it. And so far, it's really hard to draw the idea of, okay, well, there's more arrows going this way, but they're moving slower because they keep interacting. But there's fewer arrows going this way, but they're moving faster because they're not interacting, so they're covering more distance. You know, it gets hard to put it in one brain and get it to come out as a, oh yeah, this is how you draw that. Yeah, that hasn't happened yet, and I'm just kind of waiting on that, and it's not happening, and it's, you know, so it's just slowing me down, which is irritating me. But it's the big picture. I mean, it's still shadow gravity. It's just too obvious an explanation. It's right on. It's got it. This is the way it is. This is how the mechanism functions. It's just so difficult to model it, but you have to keep remembering that the atoms are collections, that they're transmitting stuff between them, that they're tied together quite strongly. You know, that's why you just don't fly apart. It's because there's a strong pipes of arrows between these atoms. You can't just pull them apart because something dramatic happens to the flow within the whole structure if you try to do that. It's all tied together in that's what creates the tension. Yeah. So so you always have to account for that. That as the collection gets bigger and bigger and bigger, it has a whole new mechanism that's tying it together. In terms of tying it in the sense that there's consequence for change. And it'll cause something to change over here. If you change something over here, and that'll change this over here, and this will change over that, and there'll be some kind of, the force will react. You can't get away with it. Yeah, you can't just extract for free. There's going to be a reaction. Okay, that's probably enough. Yeah, so sorry, it's, I really want to keep going, but it's just, alright, so I'll link to, link to my site, of course, and if you care to read this little bit of stuff, I'm gonna fix the rest of this because it's just too sloppy, but maybe make a new generalizing video. I don't know, seems like that, it should be understandable. It's not, just gotta get a bigger audience. And then I'll link to this Miles guy. Like I said, he's an interesting character. So it's too bad he doesn't do YouTube and shit. So anyway, till next time, such.